welcome back to Talking with an Addict. That's me. I'm always talking. So, I've been thinking, and one of the main questions that I get asked all the time is, how did you know you were addicted? I didn't. I wasn't aware I was addicted. I just knew my tolerance was growing to painkillers and I could take a lot more than other people could. At no point did I ever turn around and think, you know, I'm an addict, because I didn't accept it for a long time. I didn't accept her an addict. Whereas now, not that I'm happy to say I'm an addict, I don't mean it in that way, or I'm proud to say I'm an addict, but I'm not ashamed to turn around and say that I went through a really, really bad experience with painkillers. I got addicted to them and I accept that. I'm not ashamed to say I was an addict, but I'm happy to be in a situation where I can help people now. And that's all I want to do. I just want to help people. For me, the sort of place I grew up, going out on a weekend and seeing people do recreational drugs was nothing. It was the norm. But they were drugs that you just bought off somebody on the street corner. Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get demonetised. So they were drugs that were quite easy to come by. Recreational drugs were rife when I was younger, going out. Obviously, I used to go out and used to drink. I don't do that anymore. I'm sober. I'm teetotal. I've not drunk in over a year, as well as taking painkillers and everything else. I'm trying to take all the badness out of my body that I can. So, when I was younger, I used to drink a lot of energy drinks, and it got to the point where I was literally going through 14, 15 cans a day, because they were 4 for £1, and I was buying and buying and buying them. And I knew at that point I was an addict when I'd look in the back of my car and there were just cans upon cans upon cans and cans of energy drinks, and I was like, shit, I'm addicted. And that where I had to get off that. But while I was drinking them, I was taking painkillers. And people a lot of the time substitute one thing for another. So I'd say in my personal experience that my addiction to pain meds wasn't actually that bad at the time when I was addicted to energy drinks. But when the energy drinks stopped and I didn't have that addiction, I moved on to another addiction. I've been taking painkillers since I was 16. Rushed into hospital, like I said, and had an operation, left the hospital, they gave me opiates. Bang, addicted. I can sit and laugh about it now. I can sit and talk to my friends and family and be like, oh my god, I used to be off this planet on somewhere else on painkillers. But at the same time, I don't really remember a lot of things. The painkillers affected my memory. I remember the first time me and Robbie went down to London. We go to London every year, we go to conventions, we love conventions. If you don't know, Robbie is my husband. And we went to London for the weekend, and I don't remember it. I don't remember driving there, I don't remember the actual weekend. I remember bits of it because of pictures, but I don't really remember it because of the painkillers. Now, I drove out of London and we must have stopped 4 or 5 times at services, and I took 3 co-codamol every time we stopped at the services. We could have stopped at the services every like hour and a half, and obviously that's too much within that time frame because you're only meant to take 2 or 4 times a day. But I never in 10 years thought I was addicted to them. I never thought they had a hold over me. I never thought they controlled me. And when it did finally hit, and when I did realise, and when I did think about all the tablets I've been taking, when I did accept it, when I fully acknowledged it, the full story is in my other video if you want to go find out. I was embarrassed more to myself, and I'd realised that I'd been lying for a very, very long time, not only to myself but to my friends and my family. I lied to my mum, which broke my heart. I lied to Robbie, which broke my heart, because I've lied to so many people about these painkillers, and that's the thing that people don't get. Without realising it, these tablets make you lie. You hide them, you lie to everybody because you don't want them to know how many you are actually taking and how bad your addiction actually is. Now, to look at me, you'd think I was just a normal 27-year-old that goes to work and goes out with her friends and does this, that and other, but in reality I'm a 27-year-old that's had a lot of trauma in her life, been through a lot, experienced a lot far too young, had to deal with loss and grief at a very young age, lost a parent at a very young age, had to grow up really, really quickly, and to mask all this trauma and all this stuff that I went through in my younger years, I used painkillers. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the times when I was taking the painkillers I was told to take them by the doctor because I'd had a lot of surgeries. I've had about 20 surgeries now for endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome, and that is why I could get my hands on these tablets so easy. I was roughly having 1 to 2 surgeries a year, and in the break between the surgeries I was given painkillers to get by until the next surgery and the next surgery and the next surgery. And that's what people can't understand. They're like, well, how did you get your hands on so many painkillers and were able to take them so frequently? And it's purely because I had a lot of surgery, and I've got the scars to prove that. I've got the battle wounds, as some people call it, to show that, not only physically but mentally as well. It's very sensitive, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I went to school with somebody and he passed away when he was 19 years old because of a tramadol overdose, and that tramadol was supplied by the doctors. That tramadol was given to him by a health professional because he'd had an accident and broke his wrist, and the easiest thing for any doctor to do is go, there you go, there's some painkillers. What they don't tell you is the side effects they have and how much they can damage you and how much they can mess with your mental health. And he ended up losing his life when he was 19, and even in that time I was taking painkillers, I was taking tramadol, and that did not even stop me taking them. And because opioid abuse isn't mainstream and it's not put out there that it's dangerous and it's not spoke about and there's no adverts about it like there is for, like, I don't know, Talk to Frank, because you can't talk to Frank about opioid addiction because they don't have people there that have the experience and knowledge about opioid addiction. It frustrates me. But even seeing somebody I grew up with pass away due to opiates, it didn't stop me, and I got to a point where I knew I was killing myself. I honestly, hand on heart, do not know if I would still be here today if I didn't stop the painkillers when I did, because my tolerance was getting so high. I'd probably be on 50-60 tablets a day now, if my body could even accept that. Now, I don't even know what effects these tablets have had on my body. I know they've affected my mental health. I know that I think a lot about things now that I never used to think about. I know that when there's like a scale, so on opiates you're very numb, you don't think about a lot of things, you don't have a lot of consideration for other people, you are very selfish and you live in a cloud and you just like flow through life. And then this is the scale end where you're clean of opiates, and on this end everything's very raw. I'm very emotional now. I probably think way too much about things because I didn't think about them when I was younger. I but think about a situation that maybe happened 5, 6, 7 years ago, and decisions that I made that I regret, getting myself into stupid situations, making choices I really shouldn't have made, and so on and so forth. It's like I've gone from being completely asleep to completely awake. I'll never forget the day where I had clarity, and I'd been through withdrawal for about 2 weeks, and it was like I woke up and I was so emotional. And there's so many things that I want to speak to you about, but I never accepted I were an addict until one day. And when I did accept it, I knew the only person that could help myself was me, and I knew I was the only person who could go get help, and I knew that my family could not force me to do it. It had to be my choice, and that's the same for everybody else. Nobody can force you. You have to do it yourself. You have to be honest and truthful with yourself. And if you go seek help or you reach out to me, the one thing I will ask you for is honesty. The one thing I will say to you is, please tell me the truth. If you want help with your tablets and I try helping you and I say to you, how many have you taken today, and you tell me 10 when you've taken 20, that's not going to help. I'm not a counsellor, I'm not a psychologist, but I am a recovering addict, and I have been through it, and I have first-hand experience of withdrawals. And I'll tell you something now: when you take an opiate, morphine, tramadol, co-codamol, codeine, Oromorph, anything like that, when you take it, it turns into morphine in your system. Morphine is a strain of heroin. So when you see a heroin addict coming off of heroin, you've got to imagine the withdrawal effects are quite similar to coming off opiate painkillers, because you are essentially coming off of heroin, and people do not realise that, and that is dangerous. I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to let you think about what I've said and I will be back with more videos and more on this topic, so please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below and drop me a message.